Welcome to Soft Bites Podcast. Your life, your dentistry. We talk about ways to have more fun and meaning in one of the coolest and most rewarding professions in medicine. Conversations on how to bring awareness, create a healthy workplace, and provide emotional insights to make dentistry a fulfilling activity while making space for one's wonder, creativity, and freedom. Here are your hosts, Manuela and Jorge André.
Hello everyone. Welcome. Hi Andre, how are you?
How are you, Manuela? Welcome to season 2, right?
Yes, we are starting season 2 today. Last season we did 13 episodes,
Right.
and we had our course in Sagres, which went very well. It was really nice, a really good experience. And we are starting the second season of the Soft Bites podcast.
This season with some surprises, right? We have
Yes, this isn't.
some different
It's
stuff.
it's going to be a little different, and we're going to have some surprises. And I'm really excited about our conversation today because it was I proposed this theme to you because it was something that I heard you say during our course in Sagres, our conscious leadership course, and I found it really it really had an impact on me, and I said it immediately to you. It was one of the most beautiful things that I heard a dentist say. A dentist, which is also a practice owner, that you are, and I think it has so much meaning, and it has a lot to unfold there. So, and I propose to you that we talk about that today on this first episode. And the theme is for today: who's more important, your staff or your patients? So tell me what you have to say about this.
I was quite surprised when you kept mentioning me that you found it was an interesting thing. But for me, I think that I would say now I'm certain of what is more important who is more important, my staff or my patients. I think in the beginning of my career, I think I didn't see things the way that I see them now. But for me, it's quite clear today that my staff is the most important thing that I have in my practice, including even if you compare it to my patients. There are several reasons for that, and I was thinking a little bit about that. I was trying to bullet some of the ideas, but of course that we never prepare any of this podcast. But actually the first idea that came to my mind was, and this is a really a simplistic view of the situation, but I think it's, if you really think about it, you will understand it, which is, it's just like when you're in an airplane and the instructions regarding when you should help your kids, first you need to help yourself. And I think it's the same analogy here. Of course, that patients keep the practice. They ultimately bring you the money and they bring you the services so that you can create your practice and create your staff and so on. But you cannot take care of them if you then don't take care of yourself. And what I mean by yourself is that it's not only about you, it's about your team, right? So if you look at yourself as your team, because that's the only way that you can see it, because there's no way that you can do dentistry alone in the private practice, even if you only have like one dental assistant. So if you look at that way, I think it's quite clear, because if you every time every time that I had to choose between my patients and my staff, and that's something that comes up often. Or for example, even this week there was um, this lady that knows me since I was born, and she's a very well known person in town. And she says, "Well, you sent me to your inexperienced colleague." I mean, she was just provoking me. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, but there's no other way of doing that. I mean, first of all, he's not experienced, number one. And number two, you'll have to keep seeing him because the stuff that he's doing, I'm not doing it. So you always have to make sure that your staff is first and foremost, as long as the patient is respected and the system that you implemented is working and is well taken care of. I mean, if everything is working, there's no reason why to place your patients in ahead of your staff. I mean, the patient is not always right. I don't agree that. I'm not saying that you should confront a patient, but I don't think that you should tolerate some stuff from patients. The same way that you should not tolerate some stuff from your staff. But if you keep placing your patients in front of your staff, you ultimately, in my point of view, you will lose your
Mm-hmm.
staff. You will lose the trust of your
Mm-hmm.
staff because they will always be scared of doing something wrong. And that I think no one can work in a healthy environment if they are scared. They can't be happy. They can't be healthy. They can't perform at their best, and they can't be calm as well. I mean, they need to have some stability, emotional stability in the place that they are working. And I think that um, if you show them that you got their back, like I always say, even when a patient is being unrespectful or a patient is being unreasonable, because
Mm-hmm.
they often are unreasonable. Well, not that often unrespectful, but sometimes they are
But it can
yeah,
happen.
but they are
Mm-hmm.
unreasonable many times, especially when you work in a multidisciplinary practice where they get to be seen by several specialties, um, and they get unreasonable. And especially my practice, that I evolved from a single man to many people working with me. Of course, they want to be seen by me. They are used to me, and you need to have a team that trusts you, and for them to trust you, they need to see that
Mm-hmm.
um, the patient is not always right. I mean, we have values, we have rules, we have systems. We got each other's back. I care about the money that they take home at the end of the month. I care about the schedule that they do. I Even, for example, one of the I'm just remembering something. One of the things that I asked my maybe I've talked about this, but anyway, one of the things that my the team of dental nurses asked me, not asked me, I asked them, look, is everything okay? I mean, is there something that you would like to change here? Because I've got two new dental nurses that just came out of without any experience. One of them, she left for personal reasons, and another one is pregnant. So sometimes, like, all of a sudden, in a practice of five assistants, half of them go home, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of changes there, and it's not easy
Mm-hmm.
to work while with 50% of the staff is completely inexperienced. And I asked them, look, I know this has been difficult for you. I've made some measures to increase the incentives, but is there any way that I can help you more? And they said, well, we do lose a lot of time at the end of the day cleaning, and even though we have outsourced the cleaning once a week, like for deep cleaning. Everyday cleaning was being done by them. And they said, well, we lose sometimes 30 to 40 minutes at the end of the day just doing some mild cleaning here. If you had someone that could come here and help us, we would get home 30 minutes earlier. And I said, well, okay, yes, you are right. I would prefer to pay some extra to have you get home 30 minutes earlier, because I think this is important, especially today that we talk so much about reducing the week load, right?
Mm-hmm.
which is something interesting that we can even talk about, because I totally agree with that. But yes, that's just a small example how I really, um, I, I am absolutely sure that my staff is more important than my patients. Of course, there needs to be a balance here, like
Mm-hmm.
everything, but there is no way that you can treat your patients well if you don't place your staff as a priority compared to your patients,
Mm-hmm.
because ultimately the smoothness of the whole system depends on the happiness and on the fulfillment of the staff. If they are not
Yeah.
happy and if they feel that you are not reasonable, and if the patient is always right, even if when they're not, I think that you will lose their trust and you will lose
Mm-hmm.
their thrill of working with you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so amazing to hear. I mean, we were talking before, and I think um, it's really important to be said. It's really important to be put in by words what you just said. Not only because yeah, there is still colleagues and practices that work the other way around. So like. Um, choosing the patient, and I agree that will lead to an unhappy team, to a frustrated team, to a team that does not trust each other. They don't trust each other, um, and but also because I think that's really the secret of a patient-centered dentistry. So if you focus on the happiness of your team, if you focus on your staff, then of course you will take care. You will take also good care of your patients. All of you will take good care of the
Yeah.
patients. So that will come in a very natural way. Let me ask you regarding the clinics and the colleagues that still feel that the patient is the most important thing. And let me just say that, of course, we are not saying that patients are not important. They are. It's implicit. That's not what we are saying. But the ones that feel like the most important thing is the patient and to keep the patient happy, and they forget about their team. Why do you think that happens? It's money pressure, do you think?
That's an interesting question. I think there's a lot of things at stake here. So first, I think that if you open a practice in the beginning, of course, patients are critical, right? And yeah, you may have the tendency to please the patient, to do whatever. I think I did that in the beginning. That's number one. So there's financial pressure there. But I also believe that as you get more experience, and my practice is since 2005, so it is 17 years. Actually, it was a few days ago, it turned 17 years. I think that as you go along, you realize a couple of things, and that at the end of the day, patients may come and go, but your staff is much more likely to stay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to take care of your own team first.
Mm-hmm.
And
Do you
yeah.
think? Sorry. No, I was going to ask you, do you think, like you said, I also agree that in the beginning that's it's very understandable that happens, that you put the patient first, you want to please them, you need to make your name, your clinic. That's a normal thing. But then as you grow,
Mhm.
um, you have to be able to adapt, right, to changes, and also to really set your
Yeah.
boundaries for yourself and for your team, patient related. Do you think that also that there might be some colleagues that don't know how to make that transition, so they keep on saying yes, 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 and they also, when they admit other associates to work with them, they expect their associates to also say yes to everything and to work with the same standards.
That's
because in order for you to work that way, and you said it yourself, you also started that way, but nowadays it's different. Okay, 17 years, you evolved, you learned how things. You learned to you understood the importance of your team. You understood that your team stays with you. Patients come and go. You understood that you have to take care of your team in order for them to take care of you. So those were all lessons, right? And you tried several things. I mean, I imagine, right? It's not like one day you woke up and, okay, everything is working well. No, I'm sure that you tried several ways of doing it. Okay, this works, this doesn't work. You listen to them also. And that's a lot of work. I mean, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And if you work nonstop, 9 o'clock in the morning, until 9 o'clock in the evening, with patients in the chair, all of this work that needs to be done, you just keep doing the same things. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I mean, and years go by very fast, and 10 years, 15 years go by, and you still have the same way of working as you had when you opened the practice. But things evolve. Do you think sometimes it's that also that happens?
I think that happens, and I have to say that I know a lot of colleagues that they feel very frustrated and very misunderstood within their teams. I mean, lots of leaders that feel misunderstood and always think that there's no staff that I can trust. No one wants to work.
That's it.
Yes, and I have to say that I was very lucky that in an early phase of my practice, at about the third year, I met someone, I think I've talked in the podcast, and I certainly talked in the course. It was a friend of mine, Alok, and I'm sure that we'll have an opportunity to talk to him. And he basically introduced me to the concept of an organized, even if it's a small business, should be organized and it should have a vision, right? And I think that completely changes everything, because when you are faced to have to think about the vision that you want for your business, you have to think about it, and you have to think about not only what you want, what it is likely that you want, but also something that is really even more important is who you are. I mean, in the sense that, okay, you may say, well, I want a huge clinic. I want to buy the whole building in a few years. That's one thing. Or I want to be a boutique practice. Okay. But that's just quantity, let's say. Now, how do I want to feel when I enter my practice? How do I want to feel when I think about my practice? How do I want other people to feel when they think about my practice? What are my values, let's say? What are my core values as a person that I would like to implement on a business? And for me, that was always very clear. I'm sure it's not clear for everybody, but I think that even if you look at it only from a business perspective, and some people do that, some people look at the business mainly as a way of making money, which is not bad, I'm not saying it's necessarily bad. But for me, I always wanted a business that made sense from my own values, that I wanted to feel happy, and I wanted to feel content, and I wanted to feel proud of the thing that I built. And I always knew from the start it would never have to be a big thing. Actually, I would always need to keep it within the limits that I wanted, so that I would practice the dentistry and I would treat the patients the way that I wanted. So when you realize that every business, and by the way, this is not a unique vision. I mean, every small business, and this, if you do an MBA, or if you study any sort of business, you will realize that one of the biggest frustrations of small businesses is because the technician, the person that opened the business because he was very good at something, he couldn't adapt to the fact that some of the people would have to get in, and you would have to create a team.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Because they most of these good technicians, dentists in this case, they were never really exposed to how a business should be run.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk about how a business should be run, it is also in the way that you can manage money and the financial part of it, but also how you organize it, right? And how you implement the vision that you want from it. So if you think that you want a vision for your practice, I think that early on in your career, you start to make decisions that start to funnel into that vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this in the course with strategic objectives, operating principles, and stuff like that. So basically, that's the vision that you have. You can have you may say, well, I want to be the largest practice in Portugal, or you can say, I want to be a practice where people feel good there. And actually, it was very interesting. One of our students in the course, and I spent a lot of time with him, and he was telling me, look, I really want to practice where people feel good there, because I've worked in so many practices, and it didn't feel good. I didn't felt taken care of. I was frustrated. So I want my practice that dentists that work there, they feel good there. Because I want to. This is my goal, and I think this vision is getting more and more and more out there, because I think that people are realizing that if you only look at the final score, which is the patient, I don't think you can have a peaceful career and emotionally fulfilling career. That's what I think, and this is why I I find this. I understand that for some people this can be a surprise, but for me it's very clear. My staff is really above my patients in the way of importance, for the exact reason that if my staff is happy, my patients will be happy. If my staff is not happy, my patients will not be happy. That's very clear to me.
Yeah. Let me just add something that you said that's very interesting. That is that you talked a lot about values and vision and implementing and having your vision very clear and having your values very clear. And I also share of that opinion. I think that's very important. And also, and you were talking about it in a practice owner perspective. But that's very important also for the ones that don't want to own a practice. So imagine if a clinic has all of that vision values implemented and very clear, then it's going to be much more easier to find the people that share the same values to work with.
Yes.
And also it's going to be much more clear for the ones that are looking for work,
Yes.
for a place to work,
Yes.
and to go to a place and to identify themselves with the values.
Yes.
I think that it makes things much more easier for both sides, because even if you are not a clinic owner, if you really are aware of your values, if you really are aware of the vision that you want for your dentistry practice, what you want to be as a professional, as a dentist, what you want your dentistry days to look like, if you have your values very present, it will be very easy for you to distinguish the places that and to choose the places that you are going to work with. Another thing that I think and that I observe is that the clinic owners that have that vision, that have their values very very present in their work philosophy of their practices, are also very dentists that are very good mentors. What? Let me see if I can explain this. So they have the availability in themselves to to teach and to give some certain freedom and time to dentists that don't have that much experience. Because I don't know what you think about that, but I think
Well,
that nowadays that's important for the dentists that come out to have that mentorship and that time to start practicing dentistry with, of course, the supervision, but already with some
yeah,
freedom. I have cases of like, okay, you might have just one or two patients a day, but do the best dentistry that you can do.
I think
You have the freedom to do
yes.
the best dentistry that you can.
I think it's important. I always tell them, look, I would never be mad at you because of a technical error. I would never do that. But I would be pissed off if there's something that was clearly set in a certain way, and if you don't do it, and especially when we talk about this over and over, and you know that's the clinic's philosophy, then that would piss me off. But technical errors,
Hmm.
I would never get mad at anyone or get a negative idea of any dentist that worked with me that ever made that couldn't take out a tooth in the beginning. Um, I would never get mad at them because of that. Because I
Hmm.
don't think that's the most important thing. I think technical expertise comes with time, but they need to feel they are in the safer environment. Of course, it needs to be gradual. It needs to be.
Hmm.
It's not all in one go. For example, Luis that works with me that starts to do implants and perio, he assisted me doing implants for many years.
Hmm.
And then he started to do some perio. He saw me doing perio. So now he's taking over, but it was a transition. But I, I always, and I generally say this, and some people don't believe this, but honestly, I would like them to be better than me. I do. I wish
Hmm.
they would be technically better than me. I am technically a very good dentist. I cannot say that I'm not, but my main my main strength is on treatment planning and organizing complex treatment and staging complex treatment and stuff like that. So yes, would have no issue whatsoever that they would be better than me. Actually, there was even a patient a few months ago when I went to see her. Basically, she had been doing some implants with me for quite a few years. And then because of the agenda, and Luis was there, Luis was assisting me on some of those implants. And because of the agenda, I couldn't do the implants on her. I had to schedule something like I said, well, you will do it by Luis. And I told my I said, look, tell her, because she trusts me a lot, tell her that she's in good hands. And then Louise did the implant, and then I went to see her when she was removing the stitches, the sutures. And I went there, and she told me, "Look, I this was the implant that I suffered the least in the post-operative." And we are very careful with the post-operative instructions. They get that beforehand. They take very good medication. We inform them very well. So post-operative pain is very, very mild. But she said, "Look," she told me, and Louise was there. She told me, "Look, this is the implant that I placed that was the least discomfort in the post-operative days." And I said, "Well," and she was joking like, "Look, I think I want to change you for Dr. Louise," and I was so happy for that. And I told her, "Look, that's perfect. Honestly, that's and it is because for me." The main goal of my practice, and I don't think it is humanly possible to do it otherwise, is because especially when you work so hard and when you labor so hard to create a practice, it comes a point in time that then dentistry takes its toll on you, because dentistry is a very demanding job. And after a certain age, and it is very important that that you have to focus on strengthening your team rather than strengthening yourself. And I think that the most the dentists that I see now that open multidisciplinary practices, that they are happier, and of course happier is a very subjective, but they are, I would say, more fulfilled, are the dentists that were very wise in doing that transition of placing the team, of really reinforcing the team, and stepping out of the stage, or at least reducing a lot their workload. Because once you have a team, and once you have to take care of the team, you cannot work technically at the volume or at the level that you worked before. I'm not saying that you cannot be very good, of course, but you have to reduce the amount of cases that you do. It's not possible to do it otherwise. You have to be really selective, and you have to work. You cannot work at the same pace that you did before. And I don't see any other way. On the other hand, the dentists that I see that really took on, that kept taking on the responsibility of seeing patients at the same level, or at the same pace, or at the same intensity
that when they started,
not being able to delegate some patients, not being able to delegate some procedures. I see a lot of burnout there. I do see.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, that's and again, I think that you see things very, very clearly, and that you put things in a very beautiful way. The way that
sometimes,
I see
sometimes when I think about the way that the things that I'm saying, sometimes I'm talking in this podcast, and I say, who the hell are you to keep saying the things with I mean, but on the other hand, I think that we are all humans, and I see a lot of analogies in people's career, because I've been I think I'm in a generation that I've interacted a lot with the first generation of modern dentists in Portugal, and I do interact a lot with also younger and less younger generations. So I think that I'm in a position that I've seen quite a lot of things happening. And for example, what I see, and I was even talking to a friend of mine, and she was telling me, look, when now I work at the aesthetics, but when I'm 50s, and it's funny the way that she was thinking about that. When I am 50s, who is going to be treated by me? Because she was already understanding that at her level of work, at her intensity of work, she would not be able to work at this level when she's 50, and she's like 30s. And she was saying, like, well, I have to find a plan B. Either I own a practice, either I buy a practice, because at 50s, I would not be able to work at this level. So if I'm not able to work at this level, someone else will. And this is why when you look back at people, I think that what happened is after 50s, and this is just a number, of course, after 50, you see that many dentists, they either reduce dramatically because they have to, because they are mentally worn down, or they have on purposely decided to change careers or delegate, because I don't think that you can practice dentistry technique at a very high level for many decades, because it's very you see a lot of patients a day. You tend to see people tend to see a lot of patients a day sometimes, and the level of complexity in technical dentistry has increased so much that you tend to forget that you need to, in order to do the dentistry that it's needed today, you need to see less patients. And if you don't do that, it can be very overwhelming, and I don't think that dentists can maintain the same capacity for the rest of their career. And and yes, and you have to have either you do that on purpose, either you calculate that and you create that that reducing the workload,
Mm-hmm.
and that is easier if you are an owner of the practice. If you work somewhere else, it is more difficult. I understand that. But being owner of the practice also has the mental load of managing stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think this path that it comes to a certain age that you have to really reduce the
Mm-hmm.
technical side of the dentistry. I don't think there is any other way, because if you don't do that, you will be mentally worn very, very easily.
And you were talking, and I just remember that I had a conversation with a young colleague. I think she graduated 2 or 3 years ago from dentistry,
Hmm.
and she reached out because she wanted to do the mindfulness course. And I always have like a discovery session to know the person, to see if the course is
Hmm.
fitted. So and it was very interesting what you said, that that I remind me while you were speaking, because I think that this new generation already take things a little bit different. She said, it's because I look around and my colleagues, it's like dentistry is a sprint for them. No, so they wake up, they go to work, they work all day, patients, patients, patients,
Hmm.
they finish, they go
Hmm.
home. The other day, the same thing.
Hmm.
It's like a sprint,
Yeah.
and I don't want to do it like a sprint. I
Mm.
want to enjoy. I want to enjoy it. I don't know if I'm going to do this for the rest
Yeah.
of my life, but while I'm doing it, I want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't want to have this sprint
Yeah.
feeling. So I think that this new generation already takes things a little bit different, but when she mentioned it's like a sprint, I could totally identify myself with this sprint feeling.
But
and
but
and yeah, if you
but
do,
for practice
it's yeah.
owners, this is one. It's another huge reason why you should take care of your team. If you want to
Hmm.
reduce work, you should really take care
Hmm.
of your team, because they
Hmm.
will follow up on your path. And by
Hmm.
taking care of your team is not like placing them on the position that you don't want to be. You don't want to wear them out, right? You
Hmm.
want them to,
Hmm.
to have a you want them to be fulfilled working there. That includes reasonable working hours, which is something that I think we should also focus. We should also think
Hmm.
about that. And I,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think that it is in Belgium, right, that the working days are being reduced, right?
Yeah. Now legally,
Yeah.
4 days a week. So legally, it's the law is out.
Hmm.
But it was something that it was already done.
Yeah.
Maybe I mean, now it's legal, but it was something that the work week was already for
But 4 days,
4 days, 4 days a
they
week.
would condense 5 days into 4 days.
No, it's
The same
the
schedule. Okay,
normal.
it's
It's the same
interesting. I
schedule.
was reading some stuff about that, and there was, I'm not sure when, but basically we used to work 6 days, right? We will only
Hmm.
rest one day. And
Yeah.
then when there was a transition of stopping working on Saturday, I'm not sure when it was, maybe a few centuries ago, there was the same criticism that is happening now, which is, oh, what about productivity? What about income? How about being competitive with other countries and stuff like that? And when that shift was made from 7 days to 6 days, um, what happened was that all those fears didn't happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
They didn't happen,
Hmm.
and I am. This is a question that is very close to me, because my father has a restaurant. My uncle, my aunt, she has a restaurant as well, and it's very typical on restaurants to have people working with only one day off.
Hmm.
And even though it is, of course, that financially it can be rewarding for employees to do that. It is very, very violent. It is extremely violent for people only to have one day off. So that's extreme. But I also believe in dentistry that it should be reasonable. Schedules should be reasonable. I don't think it's possible for you to work more than 8 hours a day and have the same energy. I don't think that is. I
Yeah.
think people
Well,
need to enjoy
here,
the day as well.
here in Belgium, the dentists usually already work 4 days a week
Hmm.
with a schedule from 9 to 5.
Yeah,
There is no practices open on weekends or maybe some
yeah.
Saturday mornings,
Hmm.
but that's not the normal rule. There is on weekends there is a scale of
Yeah.
emergencies. So you as a dentist have to do per year one Saturday or one Sunday
Hmm.
a year.
Hmm.
So it's like a rotating
Hmm. Yeah.
scale. And usually the last appointment it's at 5 or at
Yeah. Yeah.
4:30, so that you are out of the practice at
Yeah.
5, or at
Yeah.
5 you are out of the practice at 6. Usually at 6 the staff is already
Yeah. But
all
well,
supposed to be
from some
out.
countries, especially in Portugal, but in some countries, people are saying, "Okay, yes, that's very nice," but people wanna
But the patients are
understand that.
used to this. No
Yes.
one asks for appointments. Oh, but I only leave work at can I
Yes.
go there at
Yes.
7?
It's
There's
cultural.
not, the patients are used to
Yeah.
this, so you also have to educate your
I
your
agree.
your
I agree
patients,
with that.
which
I
is
agree.
I understand it's not
Yeah.
easy.
And some people, some dentists are saying, well, that's very nice, but we can do this because of this and because of that and because of it. But at the end of the day, you have to make a choice. Okay, would you want to be miserable yourself working at that time? Would you want to not have time for your spouse, for your kids, for your family? Would you want your staff to be working long hours? Does the price that we are emotionally paying, all of us, does it make does it compensate? Honestly, will it
Hmm.
compensate? I don't think so. I don't think it
Hmm.
does.
Hmm.
And this can be, and of course, for some people, things like this need to be done because of financial constraints and financial responsibilities. I understand that, but it's true. I think it will. I think people need to talk about this. Dentists need to talk about this, and patients, the population in general, like in every country, they need to think about this. And I think that we've talked about this before, that with the pandemic, there was a lot of rethinking of
Time
time
management.
management and life management and career management.
Hmm.
I think that this pandemic brought to the surface a lot of unhappiness that was going on, and they realized that, okay, this all of a sudden, um, there's something that can happen that completely stops my work. So I am still alive. I still have my family. So what's the most important thing here? Is it me? Is it my work? And of course, it's a balance between everything, right? But I think that the pendulum is too much to the side of financial rewards and money and work, rather to being more centered. And
Hmm.
for countries in Northern Europe, they are more advanced in these categories. But I think that countries like Portugal, we have a long way to go.
Hmm.
We do have a long way to go.
I'm going to add, and I mean, if you don't agree, just let me know. But of course, there are situations which it's money required, but there are other situations of some practices that it's the lack of boundaries.
Exactly,
It's
exactly.
like the
I agree.
but I tell my assistants
I agree.
that now I only work until 5, but then there's always emergencies
Yeah,
and they make appointments
yeah,
to 6 and to 7.
yeah,
I always get out of the practice
yeah,
not before 8
yeah,
o'clock. You know, and again we go back to the same thing. You have to have a system in place. Everyone has to have the same guidelines. There can be no exceptions. And when I'm saying no exceptions, of course there can be exceptions, but the rule have to be the same. Everyone has to practice the same guidelines. And then you will have no miscommunications, right? If you are saying something, but then your assistant do the other thing, and then you are unhappy, and then this, and then that, and then you don't take responsibility for what you are. So that's a big snowball. And in the end of the day, you are exhausted, you are frustrated because but I already told you that I don't want any more appointments, and there's a lot of excuses sometimes, and you end up, and again, years pass by very fast.
Yes, and when you realize you've been working long
and you
hours.
end up by wearing you out in a way that even financially
it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
I agree with you.
It's really, really not worth it.
I agree with you.
I mean, I know colleagues, for example, that I don't know if it's your case. You sometimes work Saturdays also. Once in a while.
I do work a lot of Saturdays because I do a lot of courses, but I try to not work on Mondays whenever possible.
But I know of colleagues that they work 4 days a week,
and then Saturdays,
and sometimes on Saturdays they go for big things, for big for only one patient, but that they need to be rested and that they need to do big work. So they once in a while they go okay, and that's an exception, and that's something that you feel good on doing it, and financially. It compensates.
One of the things that, for example, we do. My staff works on Saturday mornings, and they, if they work on a Saturday morning, they don't work on the morning of the weekend. And I don't think this is not a perfect solution. This is like it's a reasonable, but it's a compromise, which is like when patients, can you book it after work? Well, you can come here on Saturday morning. Saturday morning, I want to rest. So don't come here, right? I wouldn't say that to them, but I mean the answer is obvious. Their happiness and their comfort is above yours. And I understand that dentists say, well, because they are the ones that are paying. Well, it is true, they are the ones that are paying, but it means that they are not respecting your time and your health and your life. Right, and that's the cultural difference between countries from Northern Europe and with other countries like Portugal, for example. So you
because you have to be the first one respecting it, right? And if you respect it, then you can demand it from others, and others will respect it also.
But like you were saying, it's important that this is a teamwork, and yes, systems in place, but also systems they need to be tweaked frequently, and that's when you have to do the meetings, the regular meetings with everybody. Look, this is not okay. We have to change this, and everybody's on the same boat. So yes, the last time that for example, the last time that I book my patients is at 5. Sometimes at 6 I book them, but usually at 5. But my associates, they book it at 6. They start at 9. They book it at 6. But if the whole team tells me, look, we want to start earlier and finish earlier, I might eventually say so. It depends on the financial situation of the practice. If I see that we could, because of course this depends a lot on the financial situation. You can't play around with these things. If it's possible to be financially sustainable, if it's possible to tweak the schedule, and in the place that you are living, if patients understand that, then good. Then I would have no problem with that. But if that would imply a significant decrease on the financial stability of the practice, then yes, we have to. There needs to be a compromise. But I think that the most important thing is that you cannot kill yourself doing working. I mean, you can't do that. You can, and it's like you were saying, years pass by very quickly. and and
Mm-hmm.
and you will, some patients will not like that. I mean, yes, now he's working less because he's rich or because he's that. It has nothing to do with that. It's just that I dentists also want to be happy. And but I mean happy, they want to stay, they want to stay to their close ones. They want to spend quality time with their close ones, right? Um, and I think that the patients need to understand that as well. And if you tell to the patients, look, and sometimes I tell them, uh, for example, when they talk to me about delegation to other colleagues, I tell them, look, when you start to have success, I say this in 2 minutes. When you start to have success, you only have two options. You can either prolong your hours and work 12, 14, 16 hours a day. And as you know, if you want to do everything right, you'll not do anything right, right? So you are looking for us because of differentiated treatments. You will never be able to do that because I would be doing the endo, etc. It's just like having the cooker answering the phone and serving the tables. You think it makes sense? It doesn't make sense. So option two would be to gather a team with the same philosophy and train them and expect and try them to perform at the best possible so that my treatment philosophy and the practice treatment philosophy can implement it in a healthy way, because otherwise it's not impossible. And of course I have not chosen option one, I've chosen option two. And I also tell them, look, and this is the way that dentistry is done, the modern dentistry is done all over the world. I mean, this is the way to go. I mean, if you tell me there is a dentist that works, that does everything well, honestly, I will not believe you. And so this is the way it is. I understand that, but I cannot work 16 hours a day. It's impossible for me. And they have to understand that. If they understand it, it's okay. If they don't understand it, I mean, and if we as dentists, and honestly, I don't think there's any way other way to go, because I don't see today dentists, general dentists that can do complex work, or dentists that do complex work doing general dentistry very often, because it's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a general dentist, yes, you can, and it's very good to be a general dentist. But if you want a complex work, you have to refer it, and the other way around as well.
Yeah.
If you do complex work, you have the team to back yourself up, and the patients need to understand that. And again, for the theme of the podcast, this is why focusing on the team is more important, because the team, the quality of the team will attract the quality of the patients,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
the way it works. I mean, if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have a good team, the patients that you want for the types of work that you want, they will not come to your door. It's
Yeah.
not the other way around.
Yeah, and to finish, I would make an invitation for the colleagues listening to us, the clinic owners that listening to us, to try to on the next on the next I don't know, weeks, seeing things like this. Focus on your team, focus on your staff instead of your patients, and see the
I
differences
mean,
and see what that leads
yeah.
you to.
If they are completely new to this podcast, I would start. I would say, okay, just ask your team, what would you like to work better here? You can ask them individually or in a
Mm-hmm.
meeting, but individually probably works better. What would you like? How would you like things to be improved here? And you'll be very
Mm-hmm.
surprised when you ask for
Mm-hmm.
feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you would be
Mm-hmm.
even more surprised when they, on what they do and on what they can give from themselves, when they realize that you are listening to them and you are actively trying to meet their needs. You will be
Mm-hmm.
really surprised. You will be really
Of the
surprised. Yes.
results. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
just a simple question. So,
Mm-hmm.
how can we improve things here? What would you like
Mm-hmm.
to be different?
Mm-hmm.
And listen to them,
Mm-hmm.
and just move one step towards that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great advice, and a great way of finishing, and I'm sure that it will, like you said, just try it out, because you will be surprised by the results. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andre. I really, I think that this is really important because it's for me. It, just to put these things out in words and to say them and to listen to someone saying all these things. For me, I find it very inspiring. I find it very
I,
inspiring, and I find it so
I,
important
I,
for dentistry.
I it's yes, it's true because sometimes when you practice in a certain way, sometimes you forget how most people practice. But yes, I understand it's a path that you go through. You make mistakes, you learn some stuff, and this is very important. You have to learn some stuff. You
Hmm.
have to be
And
open,
you have to learn from your mistakes,
yes,
of
but
course. Yeah.
also you have to learn from people that from professionals. I mean, you have to seek help. Even in the course, one of the students was saying, "Well, in the beginning, I wanted to do good veneers, so I did a veneer course. So then I wanted to be very good at DST, so I did a DST course. And then I realized that I need some management skills, and I am doing this course and mindfulness
Hmm.
skills. And
Hmm.
you have to search for those things. You have to search, and it's a
Hmm.
continuous search. There are so many courses out there, so many people, so many amazing teachers in dentistry, and you just got to drink from
Hmm.
that information
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
you are not
Hmm.
static, and you go and you learn
Hmm.
and for me, I
Hmm.
had to learn that a lot. It was not something that was natural. I really had to go through a personal transformation and personal growth in terms to be able to give more, to give as much as possible. Because I think that the more you learn, the more you are able to give. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and I also think that dentists are very curious by nature, and they like
Yeah,
to learn,
yeah,
and they like to invest in themselves and in their
yeah.
skills. I think that, of course, they are more interested to invest in their technical skills, which is totally
But it is
understandable. But
changing.
I think, yeah, it's
Yeah.
changing. Definitely, it is. It is changing, and and what we just said that in our generation, dentists would start to realize that they could not keep up the rhythm uh,
Yes.
uh, after their 50s.
Yes.
I think that now things are changing more
Yeah.
before, and but also, and I think it's one of our goals also with the podcast is that you don't reach a certain point of your career that you look up and say, okay, what have I been
With my
doing?
life. Yeah.
Why am I running around like crazy for what?
Yeah.
So I think it's one of our goals is also to bring some
Yeah.
awareness to dentistry and to say that you can live your profession, you can enjoy it, and you can live your profession, and
Healthy way.
yeah, yeah, and with intention and
Yes.
with awareness, just like you said before, very aware of your values, very aware of your vision. You have to be very clear about what you want your dentistry days to be like. If you want to have a clinic or not. If you already have a clinic, what kind of clinic do you want? What are your goals, personal goals, work goals? Again, dentistry is so intense that it mixes a lot with our
Yeah.
life. You cannot distinguish
Yeah.
it. So you should be able to enjoy it, and you should be able to, while you are in this ride, to have people, to be surrounded by
That you
people
like,
that you
and that
like,
you enjoy.
that you
Yes.
like.
And to really create a team that feels good. They don't need to be your
Hmm.
family, but they need
Hmm.
you need to find fulfillment. You need to find comfort. You need to find that there's trust there, there's respect, there's trust, there's care. And I think that if you can get that in a team, I think that this is way more important than than financial. And also because dentistry, I mean, you will not be a millionaire doing dentistry. You will never get that. I mean, you can have a very reasonable life, very comfortable life, but I think that this is all possible within the financial goals of most dentists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andrea. I really enjoy it. Thank you for your generosity, and it was a wonderful conversation. Thank you, and thank you for to everyone that listens to us, or on YouTube, or on or just on Spotify, or on another podcast platform. Thank you so much for being there. If you have any comments, any questions, if you want to get in touch, if you have any suggestions for us to talk about here in the podcast, just let us know. I'm having a lot of fun
Yeah,
always
me too.
here, and we are going to continue. And we are going to have a new edition of the Conscience Leadership
Yes,
course.
yes.
It's going to be in October, 6th, 7th, and 8th of October. Again in Sagres, because we really enjoyed it. It's a beautiful, beautiful place with a beautiful energy, and it's going to happen again. And I'm very, very, very happy for
Yeah,
that.
we're looking
So
forward for that.
yeah. Thank you, Andre, and bye bye, everyone.